Now, please join me in welcoming our keynote presenter, Tim Costello of BDX.
Well, howdy, everybody. I am standing before you and cocktails, and being Kentucky, there's probably a lot of cocktails up there. When John asked me to give the keynote this session about leveraging technology as a competitive weapon, I got a little bit of deja vu. It took me back to 1991 of all times, and I know some of you probably aren't even old enough to realize 1991 was an actual year, but it took me back to 1991, and I was standing on the stage of the Los Angeles Auto Show, and I was introducing the EV1, which was the first mass-produced electric car in the world's history. At the time, I was the technology planning manager for advanced vehicle engineering at General Motors, and people asked me exactly the same question that John asked me, which is, as a business owner, how do you cultivate innovation? And we came up with three basic rules at the time. The first is that you have to have fertile soil. You have to be in an environment where innovation is going to stick. And fertile soil can be created by a lot of things. It can be created by legislation and the regulatory climate. They can simply say, by the way, the new rules are X, and you have to figure out how you're going to be able to provide those rules. Or it can be provided by competitors. Competitors can be out there out-innovating you and creating change in the marketplace, and you've got to find a way to catch up to them and pass them, or else your business is at risk. Or it can be provided by customers who have simply changed their behavioral norms, and you have to figure out how to change your business in order to get there. That simply creates the playing field. But once the playing field is supportive, and I will make a case that the playing field in housing is incredibly supportive of technology today. Our customers are changing. Regulatory requirements are changing. The demographics of our workforce is changing. Our supply chains are changing. I mean, you look at all of the different inputs that we have into our environment, and every one of the inputs that we have is leading us to a conclusion that we as builders cannot build as we have in the past. We can't market as we have in the past, and we can't offer the same products that we have in the past. So our soil is fertile. So now it comes upon us as the responsibility of how do we farm that soil? How do we create innovation in a marketplace where we have the opportunity, we have the climate, we have the conditions that will support innovation, but it's our job to actually make it come true. And I'm going to present today a structure of how we go about that. Now, the first thing I want to show you is a picture. This is what I think most people think about innovation, right? Is that you got a bunch of people there, right, that you compete against, and they're all using the same basic technology, and if you could just find some technology, you would go whipping by them, and you'd create that gap, and you'd just be a better company than everybody else. And I get that, but this is what it generally looks like. You see, it's not really a technology. It's what I call it is the trophy approach. We go out into the marketplace, and we look for a technology to glue on to our business. We find something that we go, oh my God, there's a blah, 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 and we're gonna now offer that, or we're gonna use that in our construction process, or we're gonna use that in how we design and build our homes. The trophy approach can work, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm gonna show you examples of companies that have used the trophy approach very effectively in their business. But the trophy approach works when you have a magnificent lodge as a business. If your business is ready for that trophy, you've built the lodge, you got the logs, you got the fireplace, you got everything in place, and you put the trophy in, it perfectly complements the ecosystem that you already have as a company. The problem is most of us live in our mother's basement, right? And it looks something like this. And we go, wow, somehow that just doesn't look like that, right? Same trophy, right? Same Wi-Fi enabled electronic lock system, right, that you bought and put in your business right here, and then the next guy bought and hung on his basement wall. The business capability, your competitive advantage, is not the same. And what that usually leads to is you going out and saying, well, you know what? If I only had more of these. And then you become this guy in your mom's basement, right? More is not better. You end up with 25 deer head and going, well, look at my collection. And all I can think of when that happens is the guy who parked his monster truck next to me at Walmart. And I go, just what are you trying to compensate for in your business that you need all of those trophies. And that's the problem that we have. You see, it's not about technology. It's never about technology. There was nothing about launching the EV1 that said, oh, this electric technology is just so interesting, consumers will need it. There's nothing about any of the things that you're going to see during this entire conference that's about the technology. It's about business results. So first, we have to be students of our business, and we have to recognize great businesses have lower capital requirements. They have lower demand for human resources. They waste less in their processes. They improve the product value so people are willing to pay more for their products than somebody else's products. They have a simplified customer experience that just makes it a delight to do business with you. You have quicker fulfillment from the time of express demand to fulfillment and ownership of the property. You have lower cost of customer acquisition, higher revenue per customer, higher customer loyalty, more return customers, more word-of-mouth referrals, and you have expanded market share, expanded served available market to you, so your business thrives. And ... Right? There's 100 other of these. But this is being a student of your business. If you can change these, and you can do it with technology, now you have something. So where do we go from here? The way we get there is usually the trophy approach doesn't work. Usually adding or gluing a technology to your business is not going to transform your business. What you have to do is create an ecosystem. An ecosystem of technology is not focused on the technology, but focused on the needs of your business. There's nothing wrong with you putting a smart lock on your phone, on your home, if you're a builder. In fact, I'd encourage all of you to do that. But putting a smart lock on your home in no way transforms your business. In no way can you say, this is the guy living in the basement pointing to the deer, okay? This does not transform your business. If you're a manufacturer, you can Bluetooth enable or Wi-Fi enable or connect your appliances or your devices, but that does not make you the leader in the category. That does not form a competitive moat around your business. It will not lead to ultimate business success. And if you're a builder or a contractor or supplier or trade, you can create an app, you can give an app to your people, you can do all of that. And by the way, all of these are useful. I'm not saying don't do this. I'm just saying don't expect that doing this is going to create a transformative product or service or create any kind of transformative business result in your business. What you have to do is create an ecosystem that is targeted on a need of your business. Now, this is how I explain this. I spent a lot of my early formative years when I was working for General Motors in Japan, and this is Shibuya Crossing. It is historically known as the busiest human crossing in the world. It's in Tokyo, and this is kind of bird's eye view of it now. You can see this incredible convergence of humanity, and this would be on an incredibly light day. There can be 10,000 people at this intersection at any one point in time on a busy day. And I like looking at this and thinking about this is that it is this view that we need to have of our own company. So elevate you for a moment 10,000 feet above your company and call it Shibuya Crossing. And what we're going to see here is a crossing of two main arteries, and those arteries we're going to give names to. The first artery is the needs of your business. So imagine the needs of your business flowing across this intersection. And these are the needs of your customers, which means that we're listening and we're exploring and we're being inquisitive and we're being curious to understand what are the friction points our customers run into when they try to buy our homes. What problems do they have understanding our value? What problems do they have in qualifying for a loan, making their selections, deciding which home to purchase? Where's their friction in the process? Now, we do longitudinal studies of the home building process every year. We know there are 19 key friction points that consumers run into when they buy a new home. And any one friction point will cause them to change builders. 10% of consumers that run into one friction point immediately change builders. 87% of consumers run into one friction point. More than half of consumers run into more than one friction point. This is causing all of us money, but we don't know about them unless we lean in. So on Needs Avenue here, we need to understand innately, intimately, the challenges that our consumers are having, that customers are having in doing business with us. Now, the other kind of needs that we need to understand that are on Needs Avenue here are the needs of our business. This is the capital intensity of our business, the number of employees that you have to hire, the amount of material that you have to buy, the number of trades you employ, the amount of time that each trade, right, is required to be on the site, the amount of the lag time between trades that we have to allow because of inadherence to schedule, and on and on and on and on. These are also needs of our business, and by not having an attenuation to those needs, we hire too many people, we spend too much money, and we waste material and time. And all of that ends up causing us money. So Needs Avenue is flowing every single day. And we have to be attenuated to understanding what these needs are. Now, on the cross street, we have technology. This has nothing to do with housing particularly. Amazon's developing technology every day. Uber's developing technology every day, right? Google's developing technology every day. Apple's developing technology every day. Our customers, the world we live in, isn't defined by what's going on in home building. It's defined by what's going on everywhere else in the world. Developing and emerging technologies and new business models that use technology are flowing on this cross street back and forth. So you've got the needs of our customers and business going this way, and perpendicular to it, you have all of these technologies that are being developed. And it is the intersection, this collision of technologies that can solve problems that creates innovation. But the only way to know that is if we're curious and we're leaning in. Now, you've passed test number 1. You're here, so evidently you're at least a little curious. You're either curious or you like free travel. One of the two, right? You can admit it to yourself. You like one of the two. But my guess is most of you are at least a little bit curious. You're sitting here going, you know what? There's a lot of technology stuff going on in housing. Maybe we should learn a little bit more about that. So I ask you in all of your sessions, regardless of how interested you might be or think you are, or maybe you're not, or you think you've made your decision in that category, all of us should lean in every day while we're here, in every session. Because that's the only way we understand the cross traffic. And it's the only way we're going to ever see this collision of needs. So now I'm going to go through some examples of how leading companies have leaned into technology to solve problems. On the left, we have the classic CatchUp bottle. Now, you're all consumers. We've all used CatchUp bottle, right? What's wrong with CatchUp bottles? Let's hear it. Yell it out. Get stuck. You got to slam the back of it. Then where does it go? All over, right? Come on. Break glass. It's a pain in the ass, isn't it? You got this CatchUp bottle, you want ketchup, you turn it upside down, nothing comes out, and then somebody has to tell you, well, the trick is you take a knife and you tap it right here. Oh, bullshit, right? That doesn't work either, right? I mean, and then you start slamming it, and then all of a sudden, how much comes out? All of it. Right? It's ridiculous. And we lived with that for what, a month, a year? No, decades. For decades we lived with this. But Heinz was leaning in. Heinz understood people's frustration. They at least first recognized, oh, people don't like that. I mean, they don't like slamming on the bottle and getting ketchup all over the place and all over their clothes. Oh, okay, they understood that. But then they did the second thing. They said, I wonder if there's a technology out there that could prevent this. It was leaning in on both of those axes, and this was not an accident. This was intentful. They were in search of a valve mechanism that could be used to provide a complete seal. Now in Michigan, there was a guy that had been working for over a decade and had run 112 experiments. He had maxed out his credit cards. He had borrowed money from his parents. He had borrowed money from his in-laws, right? He was as close to bankrupt as you could possibly get. And on the 112th version of his design, he created a valve made of silicon modeled off of a flower that would automatically close and seal. And it was that collision, the day that Heinz met that gentleman, that they solved this problem. I might think, what a stupid story, right? Who cares? The reason you care is, what do you think happened to Heinz's market share when they came out with this product? It was transformative. 80% of the ketchup in the world is sold with an upside-down bottle with that same person's valve. And Heinz gained market share. Now, there were other competitors in the market. Who's the other competitor? We probably don't even remember now. Heinz. Remember Heinz? They weren't leaned in. They weren't listening. They may have known that ketchup bottles are, difficult to use and blah, 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 but they didn't care enough to actually go out and try to find a solution. And that's what creates the market dislocation. That's what creates a competitive moat. Now, this is a very simple, straightforward, one-dimensional explanation. Let's look at another one. Anybody ever rented a car from Six Car Rental? Right? All right, well, okay, they're another one of the car rental companies. I rent a lot of cars because I used to, like all of you, I used to travel a lot, right? The thing I can't stand is going to a brand new airport. And you get out of the airport, and what's the first thing you're trying to figure out? Where to stand. Where are you supposed to hang out for this bus that is where? Never in sight, right? So you go out to an area, you stand there, the bus isn't there, and then what do you start doing? Doubting yourself, right? Ah, crap, this must be the wrong place. What if the bus isn't coming? Do I need to call for the bus? And has anybody ever tried to call an airport car rental desk? Yeah. Yeah, well, I got like a 411 for them that answer your damn phone, right? How simple would that be? But they don't, right? So it's impossible to call them. You can't get help. You've been standing there 15 minutes. You start doubting anything. You're getting really angry, right? This is not good for them or us. So they came up with a very, 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 very simple solution, right? Early on, right? With SMS messaging. They would simply, as you land, and they had connected directly to the airline schedule, as you landed, you got a simple text. And the text said, hey, just open this up. It opens up an app. It shows you where you are. It shows you the route of the bus. And it shows you where the bus is in real time. So if you are on that spot where it says stand here, then you're in the right location. And the reason the bus isn't there is because you can see where the bus is and you can see it moving on your phone. No more frustration. No more anger, no more hassle, improve customer satisfaction. You're not mad when you get there. You're pleasant to the people behind the desk. You're pleasant to the driver. Their employees are happier. Employee retention goes up, right? Awesome. Now I ask you, is this an ecosystem? Is this a business-changing technology that's going to create a moat for this business forever? No. Is it a good thing to do? Yeah. So it's not about it not being a good thing to do because it's not an ecosystem. Good thing to do, good technology, kind of like a trophy, right? They had a business, they found a technology, they added to the business is better, but it's not going to create a moat. The bottom line is Sixth is still just as shitty a car rental company as they were before, right? You're just not as angry, right, when you physically get there. They helped out in the process, but they haven't solved the rest of their problems, right? So let's keep going. Let's see. What else do we have here? Tesco. Everybody know what Tesco is? Tesco is like a convenience store company, right? Worldwide, not just in the United States. Worldwide, large convenience store company, kind of like the 7-Eleven of the world. They had a unique problem. Tesco, when they enter a market, wants to be number one or number two in volume in any market that they serve. This is kind of like, corporate mandate. If you're going to enter a market, you got to be number one or number two. They entered the South Korean market, and they were nowhere near number one or two. In fact, they were off by a factor of 10, right? So imagine you enter the South Korean market, right? You're off by a factor of 10. You're now the division president, right, for the Korean marketplace, and your bosses are telling you, dude, you got to get to number one or two in 5 years or you're done. Oh, God. Now, South Korea, for any of you know it, is one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world. And if you want to end up being number one in convenience markets, what do you think the number one thing that you would do if you wanted to increase your volume? Open more stores, right? Except it's one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world, and the space just didn't exist. You could literally pencil out the calculation and realize there's no way in 5 years we could ever even acquire enough property to be able to do this. So this gets the capital intensity of their business. The amount of money that would need to be spent to secure the leases, just impossible, wouldn't pencil. So they leaned into technology and said, well, how can we simply create a different business? How can we use technology to transform ourselves, become number one in the business, and not open new stores? Now that sounds impossible. But what they started to do is they studied the behavior of people. Where do people spend their time? Where do they have free time? Where do they have time today that's unutilized? And what they realized in South Korea is the vast majority of the potential customers took the subway. Because in Seoul, that's what you do. You don't drive in Seoul, right? You take the subway. And while you're in the subway, you're waiting for what? The subway cars. So they leased the space in front of all the subway cars. And they put up those screens. This stuff that you see up here, but that stuff, you see that man standing there in front of what looks like a convenience store dairy case or whatever? To the left, that dark spot, that's where you enter the actual subway car. That's the subway in South Korea. That's not a dairy case, that's an LED screen that has 20,000 products on it. Everything that you could want. So now, as I'm going to work or coming home or going out to lunch during the day and I go to the subway, I pull out my app and I can simply start scanning products that I physically need, and it adds them to my cart and automatically has them delivered when I get home. No more shopping, no more going to the store. The store is with me all the time. Now, what did they need to do this? Oh, my Lord. They needed a technology back-end system that linked their entire 20,000 items to an app and a logistics, right, integration that would allow them to deliver every single day to every single address within Seoul, South Korea, right? I mean, this is some heavy lifting. This is leaning into technology, figuring out, can we put the technology pieces together to fundamentally change our business? And without buying the real estate, they became number one in the market. And they did it with technology. Now, this is not an example of a trophy acquisition, right? This is not a single mount that you're going to hang on your basement wall, right? This is a lot of heavy lifting between apps and technology and logistics and distribution, but it all came together. I'm going to show you then what they did after this. After this, they took it to England. I'm going to play a little video and just watch what they did here.
The idea came from us talking to customers. We know they like shopping on the go. We know what a pain it is when you come back and all you want is a cup of tea. So we put those two together and we came up with this idea. You can order your groceries before you go on holiday and have them delivered when you come back.
So how did this start? But they listened to their customers, right? First of all, they listened to their customers. And what they understood is when customers travel, right, they have a problem when they get home is they don't have anything in the refrigerator. Now, you heard him say you can't have a cup of tea. Why is that in England? Because you put milk in tea. And what don't you have in the refrigerator after you go on a holiday? Milk. So then they went more advanced. They took this app and then they would connect it to your flights. And they would automatically track your flights as to where your flights are and whether they're delayed. And then they would automatically delay the delivery of your groceries if your flights are delayed. All seamlessly connected. So while you're waiting for your flight, you can order everything you need, and as soon as you get home, everything has just been delivered. Leaning into customers to understand need, leaning in technology to figure out that you can solve the problem. Now let's look at some things that we probably even use getting here. This is Uber. Now Uber is a perfect example of a company that was built right from the beginning with a technology moat, right? The first issue there is just getting a driver network. Is how would you ever attract a network if you didn't have social media and the ability to get that? But the biggest issue then is the data science that they leaned into. You could have created an app for a car sharing service, but let me show you how it would have worked. You created an app, you get to the airport, great. Okay, I want a car. How long do you think it would take a normal application to find a car? It could take forever. It could take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to find a driver, and how would they communicate back to say, yep, I'll pick that person up, right? I mean, this is a disaster. What if the car is a half hour away? Even if it was instantaneous connection, they're not going to come and get you for 30 minutes, which is still not work. The data science behind Uber, which is a technical moat, is it tells drivers where to be. It tells you where to position because it knows where the most likely ride is going to come from. So instead of you being 30 minutes away, you've positioned yourself within 5 minutes of being able to pick somebody up because they can predict where the next ride will come from. It can match within 15 seconds, on average, any customer with any driver. Get a positive commitment and a match. Without that kind of routing, wait time, matching, and pre-positioning, Uber and Lyft would have never worked. So you needed an application that was going to gather all of this data and analyze all this data and make it actionable in your business so that you can reduce the app time. And obviously you have a convenient app that goes along with it, and then they added UGC, user-generated content, ratings and reviews, to help people feel more comfortable getting picked up by a stranger. And for giving drivers, right, more comfort in picking you up and knowing that they're going to get a tip. So UGC became an important element in the confidence of the transaction. So I'm going to ask you a question. If you're a builder right now, you know you're selling somebody the most expensive thing they're ever going to buy in their lifetime. Where's your UGC content? Where's your ratings and reviews? Don't you think your customers deserve a real ratings and review system so that they can look at you and go, well, this is a trusted provider of housing. Other people have bought from this person, and it was fair, honest, and open. This is what's expected in today's digital environment. And we're going to end with this part of it to talk about the most obvious technology product that has leaned into technology and created a moat around their business, and that was the iPhone. When Steve Jobs came on stage and presented the iPhone, he said it was the convergence of three things. He said you have an iPod, you have a phone, and you use the internet, and we're going to put that on one device. That alone was incredible. The fact that it was so small and so light and so powerful to put all that in one device, and I didn't have to have three things anymore. And now we've added a camera to that, and a GPS to that, and 100 apps in that makes us be able to do anything. This is the ultimate product that leaned into technology to create a product that was so important and so indispensable that nobody would dare ever leave home, come to a meeting, or come to a presentation without it. And I can look out in the audience and I can see half the phones sitting there laying on the table. It's because they leaned into the technology to think about the problems that people had. People have always wanted to take great pictures. What's the problem? They didn't have their camera with them. But if you put the camera in their phone, which they have with them all the time, then they wouldn't have that problem anymore. They just leaned into a series of problems that consumers had and needs that consumers had. And then they looked at the technologies that were available in the cloud. The cloud was something that, when Steve Jobs just started it, was just in its infancy. But he was leaning into the cloud going, there'll be a day where you'll be able to download all these apps, because when the iPhone launched, it had the capability of downloading apps, even though the cloud was in its infancy. He leaned in because he knew that that's where it was headed and going. So what technologies are you leaning into? What iPhone are you creating in your product? So let's talk a little bit about housing, right, and your technology strategy. So in housing, we have things that we can do. You can sell more homes without broker attachment. Now that's 300 basis points. I can almost guarantee you don't have any business plan at all today that is going to change your profitability by 300 basis points in the next year. That's a lot of money. The average price of a home at $500,000, at $500,000, that's $15,000 per home. That's a lot of profitability. You have the ability with technology to connect directly with consumers and sell that home online to consumers and reduce your dependency on brokers. You have the ability to build fewer model homes. And you say, oh, well, model homes don't cost us anything. We sell them after we're done. Oh, come on. How naive is that, right? You got to buy the land. You got to pay the taxes. You got to pay how many dollars per square foot to have a designer decorate it and buy all the furnishing. You got to staff it. You got to trim the lawn. You got to pay the utility bills. And that money is all sucked up and unusable and untouchable during that entire period of time until you sell it. And what's the purpose? Model homes were used in 1970. So you're telling me the business has not changed since 1970. They were used in 1960. They used model homes for Godtown in Levittown in the 1950s. And we're still using the same methodology. So how do we transition away from that? How do we transition to a new future that says I can build fewer model homes? What if you built half the number of model homes? Take your P&L out and look at what would happen if you freed up half of the cash and half of the ongoing monthly operating expenses of half of your models, and what that impact would be on your bottom line. And that exists today, that opportunity. You can hire fewer people. We have a huge problem in our industry today. Our industry has to open 6,000 new home communities in the next 12 months. 6,000 in order to get back to where we were in 2019. 6,000 communities. Now, that would traditionally mean there'd be 2 model homes per community, which means we're going to build 12,000 model homes. It also means that we're going to have to hire staff to man every single one of those communities. Sales associates, right? How in this market are we going to hire those people? How can we transition away from that model of model home, infield sales support staff at every single community to perhaps centralizing all that in a market and having one smaller sales staff that can allow access to homes in every one of your communities without having to have anybody present? Those opportunities exist. You can optimize materials and acquisition. You can clinic homes before they're built to make sure that the homes actually are what people want to buy, rather than building homes and then finding out from customer feedback that the landing area is too small or the utility room's too small, or you don't like the way the doors come together, and then changing all of your plans and having to rebuild homes. You can create a better way to live. You can integrate tech into the lifestyle solutions that, as we just saw from Elon, you can increase the revenue you take per home by allowing consumers to take control of the entire buying process. You can reduce injuries and extend, workforce careers of your clientele. We have an aging workforce. Skilled trades are a huge problem in our industry. And what are we doing with technology to allow our current workforce to stay in the workforce longer so that we can continue to have access to our trades? So what do we mean by the new home? Well, the new home means there's more outdoor living space and healthier workspaces where the home is actually part of a medical system to assure our wellness, where it's got smart features so that I can manage it remotely, completely, and it's secure and safe. It's got resilience and self-sufficiency so that regardless of what happens to utilities and storms and the reliance on our public utilities, the house functions. The home has become the physical office. The kitchen has actually now become a place to cook again, right? Everybody's become a farmer where they want to be able to grow their own things. So what are we doing to support that both inside the home and outside the home? We know that we've added pets during the pandemic, and what have we done to optimize the home for all of these new pets that we have? This is what the new home is. And builders are starting to respond to this. So this, you probably have seen this before. This is a partnership that Lennar executed with Amazon and to certify Wi-Fi throughout the home and in every living space of the home. Now that doesn't seem too crazy, but in today's world, people expect Wi-Fi everywhere. In every room, in every bedroom, on the back porch, in the garage, on the front porch. They expect that the Wi-Fi for the home will cover all of that. How many times do we put that burden, though, on the homeowner that says, well, you go figure it out later on with some other kind of system, versus certifying the home and making sure that you can guarantee that to the customer right up front? This is a young builder in Florida. I love how quick and resilient he was. At the very beginning of COVID, he didn't have a healthy home option. COVID hit, and he was leaning into customers. And what he heard from customers is customers were scared. They're scared about disease transmission, the health of the home. So he leaned in quickly to that and said, well, what can I do? And he didn't do anything special with technology. He didn't go invent technology. He simply went out there and looked for technology that existed in the marketplace and packaged it together, and he created a wellness package so he could differentiate himself in the market that says, my homes create a healthier, safer living environment. How many of you today have taken these pre-existing options that are out there and integrated them together to create this kind of wellness option to say, look, this creates a complete moat between him and the 85% of homes that are sold that are used homes? Because I can guarantee you in his market, none of the used homes had this set of technologies. None of the used homes could say that they are a safer and better and healthier living environment. The use of technology create a moat around your business. Pulte this week just announced this new integration between mine and Pulte, which now changes the entire buying process to allow you not only to be able to buy a new home, but to live the model home experience. So they're allowing you to buy the design and the decorating and the furnishings in any of their model homes. You get free online design assistance, and they have a catalog, and you can scan any of the items in any of the model homes, and you can actually build your own suite then of home design and decorating capabilities. This is an entirely new profit center. Most builders, the moment that the home is sold, the home just becomes a liability. The only thing that can happen is something bad, a warranty claim, right, lawsuit, something terrible. This is changing the economics of home building that says every home I build becomes a revenue stream over a long period of time, and they're doing it with technology. Now, Corey Barton in Idaho, he transitioned quickly during COVID in creating the ability to actually buy online. The vast majority of builder websites are not commerce sites, they are brochure sites. The intent of a builder's website is for them to reach out to you, but not to buy a home. Well, that was a limitation in COVID, so they quickly pivoted, and they pivoted to allow customers to actually hold lots and put deposits down and make offers on actual homes online. Now, in December of this last year, 63% of all homes in the United States, an offer was made before anybody ever visited the home. So consumers have changed their behavior. They're willing to make huge financial commitments without the physical experience. And while there may be some elasticity when we're finally through with COVID and everything's over and all that, where we may somehow shrink back somewhat to the size that we were before, my guess is we will never shrink all the way back. The consumer behaviors and attitudes have simply changed. The way we buy cars, the way we buy food, the way we buy everything else online, and now the way we buy real estate online will not go back. The expectation has been raised, but for us, this has created that fertile soil and environment that I've talked about. Consumers are ready for us to now adopt and embrace technology to lower our cost of sales, to lower our marketing cost, to lower our transactional cost, to lower our building cost, to become more efficient, more profitable organizations. Now, TriPoint has taken this a step farther, where Corey Barton in Idaho would allow you to put an offer in on a home that existed. TriPoint allows you to, on their site, configure the home completely. You can pick the lot. The lot will tell you what plans are available on that lot. It will tell you what the lot premium is. You can then go and pick all your structural options. You can then move from your structural options to your design options and your selections, and you can completely configure the BOM of your home online and submit it for a request for quotation or make an offer on a specific lot in a specific home that you have configured yourself and customized. Now that's more of a moat. Right? Now, the interesting fact here, there's a variety of different tools out there that will allow you to tour homes unassisted. I talked about the challenge we have with 6,000 communities. Now we're going to hire all the salespeople to deal with 6,000 communities. One of the issues is, can you have a centralized sales force that can simply give codes to people that allow them to go into your spec homes or into your model homes unassisted? The first thing that comes up there is security, but these companies have all taken care of the security issue now. So the second issue is, yeah, but if they go through the model home, I mean, somebody's got to be there to tell them all about it. The close rate of people visiting a model home with a sales associate or by themselves is exactly the same. A nationwide study of top builders who have remote access, side by side, compared tours of model homes that were assisted versus tours that were unassisted, and the close rate was the same. Because people are actually doing their shopping online. They've preconditioned before they ever got there. This was just the final inspection. And this allows your operation to operate 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Now, some of the more leading edge issues start to deal with new technologies like remote sensing and scanning and medical assessments. And the most interesting example of this is Sekisui House and their head net. Now, this is deployed today in Japan, and I think it's a lesson for us to think about the future. Japan is an advanced aging society. They have far more of an aging society than we do, and what that means is they have more people that are living alone by themselves. The number one medical cost in Japan as a society is stroke, because strokes are devastating. If they're not caught in that magic window of about an hour after a stroke, they're irreversible, which means those people could live for a long time but require lifetime care that either the federal government has to pay for or families have to pay for. So Japan is focused on how to prevent this catastrophic economic and personal devastation of the person that goes through the stroke. In partner with Sekisui looked at that and said, we can actually create a home that will monitor its occupants and determine if they ever have a stroke. And they created a sensor network in the home that begins to learn your behavior. It can monitor your blood pressure, it can monitor your activity, it can monitor your speech, and it can actually detect the signals of a stroke, and when you have a stroke, then call medical resources to bring brought to your house within the magic window that allows you to have remedial treatment with no long-term consequences of going through the stroke. The economic benefits are tremendous, but imagine now you can live in one home where you can have a devastating stroke and potentially spend the rest of your time, your life, in a convalescent home or assisted care or a nursing home. Or you can live in another home that can assure you that you will never have an unattended stroke. Which house are you going to buy? That creates a moat. That creates a clear choice. For those of you who remember years ago, Volvo used to advertise, right? You know, their whole thing was about safety. You know, you can buy this car and die, or you can buy a Volvo. It's your choice, right? I was pretty straightforward, right? I mean, that's kind of what the ad said, right? You know, I don't care. Buy a Chevy or an Oldsmobile. You know, if you want to die, good luck to you, right? Or you can buy a Volvo. We're a little bit more expensive, but you live. That's the good news, right? You decide. It's an economic decision, right? What if we did the same thing with housing? What if we created homes that aren't just places to be, but they're structures and networks that care for us, that assure us a quality of life, assure and prevent us from injury and catastrophic medical conditions? That's transformative for our industry. Now, there's also the whole kind of prefabulous thing, and we've been seeing the emergence of this, right? And we saw several years ago at IBS, KB, right? This kind of complete off-site manufactured home, and then a year later, we had Sekisui House came in and they did the Choa House, which is another version, right, of the same kind of thing. What could this do from our cost perspective and our cycle times on site? How could we use those kind of technologies? And then last but not least, this is one of my favorite companies. It is a biosciences company that builds human robotics. So it builds suits to help us so that we can do hard work. You know, construction is always thought of as a young people's occupation. You can only do roofing so long. You can only do plumbing so long. You can only do framing so long. It's hard. It wears people out. But we have a problem today. We're running out of people. We got to keep people in these jobs longer. We got to make sure that they can do this longer in their career. I'm going to play a little video to show you how they deal with this.
We made the Exo Zero G to deliver power without pain for professionals who work with heavy tools. We wanted to take the next step with something more mobile made for smaller hand tools. So we created the Exo Vest. You put the vest on like a backpack, then strap in your arms. Turn on the lift assist and you're ready to go. The Exo Vest uses springs to lift your arms with 5 to 15 pounds of lift assistance per arm. The kicker is it's all mechanical. No batteries, no cables. And it weighs under 10 pounds, so you can wear it comfortably all day. The Exo Vest is perfect for a variety of overhead applications, like manufacturing, overhead drilling, laying pipe, and cutting and grinding. Exoworks is sparking innovative change in the industrial space, providing power without pain. We can't wait to see what you'll do with it.
So these kind of products are already available. They're already being used in the auto industry because the auto industry has the same thing. They have a graying workforce and population, and people are working overhead. We're simply wearing people out. We've got to start thinking about technology and how we're going to use technology to care for our workforce so that we also can have that long-term productivity out of our people. You know, Steve Jobs said that you can't connect the dots looking forward, right? You can kind of only connect your dots looking backwards. So you kind of have to trust, right, that these decisions that you're going to make are going to kind of all coalesce together. The only way you can do that is if you lean in to your needs, the needs of your business and the needs of your customer, and you lean into technology and you identify these collisions. Now, you've got 2 days here to try to do that. And I just try to implore upon you that when you're bored or you're distracted or you're thinking perhaps the speaker doesn't have anything to do with your business, is just give yourself a little tickle and this says, I need to lean back into this to see if there's any opportunity to use technology to change your business. So thank you very much. And now it's cocktail time.